The great hall of the Zephyrian Coalition stretched wider than most starships. 12 different alien species sat in curved rows, their voices mixing into a low hum that echoed off the crystal walls. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to this meeting, each one believing they were the most advanced beings in the universe. Commander Vextari stood at the center of the hall, his forearms crossed over his chest. His gray skin bore the scars of 100 battles, and his yellow eyes had seen things that would drive younger beings mad. He had served the Coalition for 30 years, fighting in wars that most of these representatives only read about in reports. "Humans," Vextari said, his voice cutting through the noise, "are not what we think they are." The hall fell silent. Admiral Krelak, leader of the powerful hegemony, leaned forward in his crystal chair. His blue skin sparkled under the lights, and his 3 eyes focused on the old commander. "You spent 6 months watching one small planet," Krelak said with a laugh. "What could you possibly have learned that worries you so much?" The representatives began to whisper among themselves. The Zerathi delegation clicked their mandibles in what passed for amusement among their kind. The floating Nethys bobbed in the air, their gas-filled bodies shimmering with colors that showed they found the whole thing funny. Vextari activated the holographic display in front of him. Images of Earth filled the space above the delegates' heads. They saw blue oceans, green lands, and white clouds. It looked peaceful, almost boring. "This is what we see from space," Vextari said. "But I went closer. I watched them for months. I studied their wars, their history, their behavior." He paused, his yellow eyes scanning the crowd. "They are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered." The laughter that followed was loud and harsh. Delegate Morthok of the Vorthon Empire slammed his fist on his chair. "Dangerous?" he bellowed. "They cannot even travel faster than light. They fight with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. My people conquered star systems when they were still living in caves." Vextari did not smile. He had expected this reaction. "You judge them by their technology," he said. "That is your first mistake." The holographic display changed. Now it showed human soldiers in a place called Afghanistan. The images were grainy, taken from hidden cameras that Vextari had placed around the planet. The humans were fighting other humans, but that was not what caught the commander's attention. "Watch this," Vextari said. The images showed a small group of human soldiers trapped on a hilltop. They were surrounded by a much larger force. Their weapons were primitive compared to Coalition technology, but they did not surrender. Instead, they fought harder. When their ammunition ran low, they used rocks and knives. When those were gone, they used their bare hands. "They call it fighting to the last man," Vextari explained. "Most species surrender when defeat is certain. Humans do not. They fight until they cannot fight anymore, and then they fight some more." Representative Xylara of the Peaceful Consortium shook her head. Her people had not fought a war in over 1,000 years. "This proves nothing," she said. "They are simply too primitive to understand when they are beaten. Give them time to evolve, and they will become civilized like the rest of us." Vextari changed the display again. This time it showed human ships on an ocean during something called World War II. The humans were fighting a massive battle, but they were losing. Their ships were sinking, their aircraft were being shot down, and their soldiers were dying. In huge numbers, this battle was hopeless, Vextari said. Any logical species would have retreated. Watch what the humans did instead. The images showed human pilots flying their damaged aircraft directly into enemy ships. They crashed their planes on purpose, knowing they would die. Other humans jumped from their sinking ships to save people they had never met. They gave their lives for strangers, saying, Vextari continued. "It is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. I have fought the Zerathi swarm. I have survived the Crystal Wars. I have seen species that would rather destroy entire planets than admit defeat. But I have never seen anything like this." The hall was quieter now, but Admiral Krelak was not. Impressed. "You show us primitive savages destroying themselves," he said. "How does this make them dangerous to us? We have weapons that could destroy their entire planet from orbit. We have ships that could reach their star system in days. What can they possibly do against us?" Vextari's yellow eyes grew darker. You still do not understand, he said. Let me show you something else. The display changed to show a human city during something called the London Blitz. Enemy aircraft were dropping bombs on the city every night. Buildings were destroyed, people were killed, and the city was burning. But the humans did not leave. They went underground during the attacks, then came back up to rebuild. They did this for months. Their enemies thought they would break, Vextari said. They thought the bombing would make the humans surrender. Instead, it made them stronger. They adapted. They learned. They survived. Representative Quindor of the Tech Alliance laughed. Survival is not the same as victory, he said. They've conquered hundreds of species. Some of them fought back. At first, all of them serve us now. Have you ever conquered a species that learns from every defeat? Vextari asked. Have you ever fought beings who become more dangerous each time you hurt them? The display showed more images. Humans in Vietnam, using the jungle against a more advanced enemy. Humans in Korea, fighting in weather that should have killed them. Humans in the Pacific, taking islands that everyone said could not be taken. In every case, they faced impossible odds. Every case, they found a way to win. They do not think like us, Vextri said. When we face a superior enemy, we calculate our chances and surrender if we cannot win. Humans do something different. They change the rules. They make the impossible possible. Admiral Krelak stood up from his chair. His 3 eyes were bright with anger. Enough, he shouted. You want us to fear a species that has not even left their own planet? Us to be afraid of beings who fight with metal and fire. He turned to address the other delegates. Commander Vextari has spent too many years in the dark spaces between stars. His mind has been affected by the isolation. The other delegates murmured their agreement. The Zirathi delegation clicked their mandibles again. The Nethys changed colors to show they were amused. Only a few of the older representatives looked thoughtful. Vextari deactivated the holographic display. He had shown them everything he could. He had warned them about the humans' ability to adapt, to learn, to survive against impossible odds. He had tried to explain that technology was not the only kind of strength. I have one more thing to show you, he said quietly. The display activated again. This time it showed a human child, no more than 10 years old. The child was in a hospital, sick with something called cancer. The doctors had told the family that the child would die, but the child kept fighting. Day after day, week after week. The child refused to give up. The family did not give up either. They spent all their money on treatments. They never stopped hoping. The child died, Vextari said. But not before teaching everyone around him how to fight. Not before showing them that some things are worth dying for. The hall was completely silent now. You think this makes them weak? Vextari continued. You think caring about others is a flaw? You are wrong. It makes them stronger than any weapon we have. It makes them united in ways we cannot understand. Admiral Krelak shook his head. You are asking us to cancel the conquest of an entire star system because you are afraid of their emotions? I am asking you to be careful, Vextari said. I am asking you to remember that we are not the only intelligent species in the galaxy. And I am asking you to consider what happens when you make enemies of beings who do not know how to quit. The vote was quick and decisive. The coalition would proceed with the conquest of the Sol system. Earth's resources were too valuable to ignore, and its inhabitants too primitive to be a real threat. The decision was unanimous, except for one abstention from Commander Vextari. After the meeting, Vextari was quietly reassigned to a monitoring station at the edge of Coalition space. His warnings were filed away in the archives, marked as the concerns of an aging soldier who had seen too much war. But as he packed his belongings and prepared for his new assignment, Vextari could not shake the feeling that the Coalition had just made the biggest mistake in its history. The humans would not surrender easily. They would not go quietly into slavery. They would fight, and they would learn, and they would adapt. And when they did, it would be too late for warnings. 6 months after the Coalition meeting, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the sky above Earth change. One moment it was clear blue with white clouds. The next moment, massive dark shapes appeared out of nowhere. The alien ships were bigger than aircraft carriers, and there were dozens of them. Jake had been expecting this day ever since the strange signals started appearing on deep space monitors 3 weeks ago. The scientists had argued about what the signals meant, but Jake knew someone was coming to Earth, and they probably were not friendly. Captain called Lieutenant Danny Walsh from the communications station. "We are getting the same message. On all frequencies, it is being broadcast in every language on Earth." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The face that appeared was not human. It had blue skin that sparkled like crystal and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its forehead. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, though Jake could tell it was not the being's natural language. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am Admiral Krelak of the Zephyrian Coalition. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You'll surrender all military forces immediately. Your governments will transfer authority to coalition administrators. Your people will be relocated to designated areas where you will be fed, sheltered, and given work appropriate to your abilities." The alien paused, and Jake noticed that its 3 eyes seemed to be looking directly at him through the screen. "This is not a negotiation," Admiral Krelak continued. "This is an announcement. You have 24 hours to begin the surrender process. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. Your compliance will ensure the survival of your species." Message ended, and the screen went black. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, trained military personnel who had sworn to defend Earth, but they had never faced anything like this. None of them had. Sir Lieutenant Walsh said quietly, "We are getting reports from around the world. It's the same ships. Have appeared over every major city. Moscow, Beijing, London, New York, Tokyo. They are everywhere." Jake nodded. He had expected as much. An invasion this size would not target just one country or one continent. The aliens wanted the entire planet. "Get me General Hayes at NORAD," Jake ordered, "and patch me through to the other defense commanders around the world. If these aliens want to surrender, they are going to get an answer." 2 hours later, Jake was in a secure video conference with military leaders from every nation on Earth. General Lisa Hayes was coordinating from her bunker deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. Her face on the screen looked tired but determined. "The situation is clear," General Hayes said. "We are outgunned, outnumbered, and facing technology we do not understand. Our best estimates suggest each of their ships could destroy an entire city if they wanted to." General Petrov from Russia leaned forward. "So what do you suggest? That we surrender without a fight?" "I am suggesting we be realistic," General Hayes replied. "But I am also suggesting we remember who we are." Admiral Chen from the Chinese Navy spoke up. "What do you mean?" General Hayes smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "I mean, we are humans. We do not surrender icily. We do not go quietly into slavery. We certainly do not let aliens tell us what to do on our own planet." Debate that followed was intense, but brief. Every nation on Earth faced the same choice: surrender and hope the aliens kept their promises, or fight and probably die. When the vote was taken, it was unanimous. Jake was chosen to deliver Earth's response. He stood in front of cameras that would broadcast his message to the entire world. And to the alien fleet waiting in orbit, he had written a long speech about freedom and dignity and the right of humans to determine their own fate. But when the camera started rolling, he forgot all the fancy words. "Admiral Krelak," Jake said, looking directly into the camera. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. I have been authorized to speak for all the people of Earth. Your offer has been considered by the governments and military, leaders of every nation on our planet." Jake paused. Around the world, billions of people were watching. Above them, alien ships waited for an answer. "Our response is simple," Jake continued. "No." The words seemed to hang in the air. Jake could almost imagine it traveling up through the atmosphere to the alien ships, carrying with it the will of an entire species. "We will not surrender," Jake said. "We will not abandon our freedom. We will not become your slaves. If you want our world, you will have to take it from us. We promise you this: we will make you pay for every inch." The first alien attack came 6 hours later. Their ships descended from orbit and began bombing military installations around the world. But they quickly discovered that humans had been preparing for war for thousands of years. Colonel Roy Banks was leading a special forces unit in Colorado. When the aliens hit Peterson Air Force Base, the alien weapons were beyond anything humans had ever seen. They turned concrete into dust and metal into vapor. But the aliens made one mistake. They assumed that destroying the base would destroy the humans defending it. Roy and his team had been hiding in underground bunkers built during the Cold War. When the alien ground troops landed to secure the area, they found themselves facing an enemy they did not understand. The aliens moved in perfect formation. Their tactics were logical and efficient. They communicated through electronic signals that allowed them to coordinate their actions with machine-like precision. They were everything that advanced military technology should produce. But Roy's team did not fight like machines. When the aliens expected them to retreat, they attacked. When the aliens tried to surround them, they scattered and regrouped somewhere else. When the aliens used superior firepower, the humans disappeared underground and struck from a different direction. Keep changing their tactics, the alien field commander reported to his ship. Every time we adapt to their strategy, they do something different. Admiral Krelak watched the battle reports with growing frustration. The humans were supposed to surrender after the first demonstration of alien power. Instead, they were fighting harder. Every military base that was destroyed seemed to produce 10 more resistance cells. Every city that was occupied became a nightmare of urban warfare. In Washington, D.C., the aliens had taken control of the government buildings. But human forces led by General Patricia Stone had turned the subway system into a network of tunnels that allowed them to strike anywhere in the city. In Moscow, General Petrov had moved his forces into the forests outside the city, where they used the terrain to their advantage. In Beijing, Admiral Chen had somehow managed to get several human submarines past the alien blockade, and they were attacking alien ships from underwater. The pattern was the same everywhere. The aliens won the big battles, but the humans won everything else. Dr. Alan Cooper was working in a laboratory hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains when he got his first look at alien technology. Special Forces team had managed to shoot down one of the smaller alien ships, and they had brought him pieces of the wreckage. "This is incredible," Alan said, as he examined a piece of the alien hull. "The metal seems to repair itself. And these energy conduits, they are using principles of physics that we barely understand." His assistant, Dr. Kate Williams, looked up from her analysis of an alien weapon. "How long do you think it would take us to figure out how this stuff works?" Alan considered the question. In normal circumstances, it would take years or maybe decades to understand technology this advanced. But these were not normal circumstances. The survival of the human race depended on learning fast. "Give me 6 weeks," Alan said. "Maybe less if we can get more samples." Above ground, the war continued. Human pilots in primitive aircraft were ramming alien ships in suicide attacks. The aliens could not understand why beings would choose certain death over possible survival. Their own species had evolved past such illogical behavior millions of years ago, but the humans kept doing illogical things. They shared their food with strangers during sieges. They risked their lives to save people they had never met. They fought hardest when the situation was most hopeless. Captain Morrison had moved his command to a mobile base that stayed hidden by constantly changing location. He was coordinating resistance efforts around the world when he received a message. "That changed everything, Captain," his communications officer said. "We are getting a signal from someone claiming to be Commander Vextari of the Zephyrian Coalition," he says. "He tried to warn them about us." Jake frowned. "Put him through." The alien face that appeared on the screen was different from Admiral Krelak. This one had gray skin and yellow eyes that looked very old and very tired. "Captain Morrison," Vextari said, "I am the one who tried to warn my people about your species. They did not listen to me." "What do you want?" Jake asked. "To help you," Vextar replied, "and to ask for your forgiveness when this is over. My people made a terrible mistake. They saw your primitive technology and assumed you were primitive beings. They were wrong." Jake studied the alien commander. "Why should we trust you?" "It goes," Vextari said. "I have been watching the war for 3 months now. I have seen what you humans do when you are pushed too far. 3 months had passed since the aliens arrived, and the war had changed in ways that Admiral Krelak never expected. Stood in his command center aboard the flagship, staring at reports that made no sense. His forces controlled every major city on Earth, yet somehow they were losing. "Explain this to me again," Krelak said to his intelligence officer. "We have superior weapons, superior numbers, and superior technology. How are these primitives still fighting, Commander Zareth?" A young officer who had never fought in a real war before this campaign looked nervous as he answered. "Sir, the humans are not fighting the way our tactical computers predicted. They keep changing their methods. Every time we develop a counter-strategy, they do something completely different." Krelak's 3 eyes focused on the holographic display, showing Earth. Red dots marked areas under coalition control, but the spaces between those dots were filled with yellow markers indicating human resistance activity. There were hundreds of them. "Should have surrendered by now," Krelak muttered. "Any logical species would recognize that continued resistance is pointless." What the Admiral did not understand was that humans had stopped thinking about logic weeks ago. They were running on something much more dangerous than logic. They were running on anger, determination, a growing sense that they could actually win this war. Colonel Roy Banks crouched in the ruins of what used to be Denver, Colorado. The aliens had bombed the city into rubble, but Roy and his team had turned that rubble into a fortress. They moved through underground tunnels that connected basements, sewers, and subway lines. The aliens controlled the surface, but the humans owned everything underneath. "Target acquired," whispered Sergeant Pete Johnson through the radio. He was positioned on the roof of a partially destroyed building, watching an alien patrol march. Down what used to be Main Street, Roy studied the enemy through his binoculars. The alien soldiers moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons ready. They looked confident, almost bored. That was their mistake. "Remember," Roy said into his radio, "we hit them hard and fast, then disappear. Do not try to hold ground. Make them afraid to patrol in small groups." The attack lasted exactly 90 seconds. Human fighters appeared from windows, doorways, and manholes. They threw grenades and fired weapons they had taken from dead aliens. Alien patrol was wiped out before they could call for help. By the time reinforcements arrived, humans had vanished. Roy and his team were already 2 miles away, moving through the tunnel system toward their next target. This was the new human way of war. Strike without warning, kill the enemy, and disappear before they could strike back. "Sir," Sergeant Johnson said as they moved through a subway tunnel, "intelligence reports that the aliens are starting to move. In larger groups, they're afraid to send out small patrols anymore." Roy smiled. "Good. Afraid aliens make mistakes. Got us when we will be there when they do." Meanwhile, in space above Earth, Commander Helen Cross was preparing for what everyone told her was a suicide mission. She sat in the pilot seat of the UES Defiance, the first human ship equipped with alien technology that Dr. Cooper's team had figured out how to use. The ship looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels. It was built from pieces of a dozen different human spacecraft, welded together around an alien power core that the scientists barely understood. It should not have been able to fly, but human engineers had made it work anyway. "Defiance, this is Control," came the voice of General Hayes through the radio. "Are you sure about this mission?" Helen checked her instruments one more time. The plan was simple and insane at the same time. She would use the alien technology to sneak past their fleet, get close to their command ship, and plant a device that would let human intelligence monitor their communications. "I am sure," Helen replied. "These aliens think they know everything about space combat. Time to show them something new." The Defiance launched from a hidden base on the far side of the moon. Helen had trained for months to use the alien cloaking device, but she was still nervous as her ship disappeared from human sensors. If the device failed, she would be an easy target for the alien fleet. But the device worked. Helen's ship became invisible as it moved toward the alien fleet. She passed within a few hundred meters of alien warships without being detected. The aliens were so confident in their own technology that they never considered the possibility that humans might be using it against them. "Control, this is Defiance. Helen whispered into her radio as she approached the alien flagship. "I am in position." Beginning the infiltration? Back on Earth, Dr. Susan Hill was studying their most important prisoner. The alien sat in a special cell designed to hold beings much stronger than humans. Its name was Colvin, and it had been captured during a failed assault on a human stronghold in Australia. "Tell me about the Devourers," Susan said. Sitting across from the alien prisoner, Colvin's 4 eyes widened with what looked like fear. "How do you know that name?" "We found references to them in your ship's computer," Susan lied. Actually, they had found the information in the alien's personal files, but she did not want to admit how thoroughly human hackers had broken their security systems. The alien was quiet for a long time. When it finally spoke, its voice was barely a whisper. "The Devourers destroyed our homeworld. They consume everything they touch. Organic life, technology, entire planets. They turn it all into more of themselves." Susan leaned forward. "Is that why you conquer other species? To build defenses against them?" "We thought if we controlled enough worlds, had enough armies, we could stop them when they came," Colvin said. "But we were wrong. They are too strong, too many. They will come. For your world too, eventually." "Where are they now?" The alien looked directly at Susan with all 4 eyes. "They are fighting our main fleet at the edge of the galaxy. We are losing. Every day we lose more ships, more worlds. That is why we need your planet. We need every resource we can get." Suzanne felt a chill run down her spine. The aliens were not just conquerors. They were refugees, desperately trying to survive against something even worse than they were. "What if we could help?" Susan asked. Colvin made a sound that might have been laughter. "Help? You cannot even defend one small planet against a minor invasion force. What could you possibly do against the Devourers?" Susan did not answer, but she was already thinking. If the aliens were this afraid of something called the Devourers, maybe humans and aliens were fighting the wrong enemy. Across the galaxy, Commander Vextari sat in his monitoring station, reading reports from the war on Earth. What he saw confirmed his worst fears and his greatest hopes at the same time. The humans were not just resisting the invasion, they were winning it. Slowly, carefully, but definitely winning. They had turned every city into a battleground, every building into a fortress, every citizen into a potential fighter. But more importantly, they were learning. Human weapons were getting better every day as they figured out how to use alien technology. Human tactics were evolving faster than alien computers could adapt to them. Human soldiers were becoming more dangerous with each battle they survived. Vextari sent a coded message to his old friend Commander Thelera, who was serving with the main fleet, fighting the Devourers. "The humans are not what we expected," he wrote. "They may be the answer we have been looking for." The response came back quickly. "Explain." "They do not fight like any other species in the galaxy," Vextari wrote. "They adapt constantly. Sacrifice for each other. They never give up. And most importantly, they are getting stronger." Back on Earth, the war was entering a new phase. The aliens still controlled most of the major cities, but they were starting to realize that controlling territory was not the same as winning a war. Human resistance was growing stronger every day. Now they had allies. Captain Morrison received a message from Commander Vextari with coordinates for a secret meeting. The old alien commander wanted to defect, and he was bringing gifts, detailed information about alien technology, military tactics, and most importantly, the location of their homeworld. "Why are you doing this?" Morrison asked, when they met in a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of Chicago. Vextari's yellow eyes were sad as he answered, "Because I have seen what humans can do when they are pushed too far, and because there is something coming that will threaten all of us. We cannot fight it alone. The Devourers, you know about them?" Vextari seemed surprised. "We know they exist. We know your people are afraid of them. What we do not know is why you think we can help." Vextari activated a holographic display. That showed a star map. The Devourers have been consuming worlds for millions of years. Every species they encounter follows the same pattern. They fight logically, predictably, and they lose. But humans do not fight logically. Morrison studied the star map. You think our unpredictability could work against them? I think, Vextari said, that you are evolution's answer to the galaxy's greatest threat. But first, we have to end this. War between our peoples. Morrison considered the aliens' words. The idea of working with their former enemies seemed impossible. But if there was something out there that threatened both humans and aliens, maybe it was time to stop fighting each other and start fighting together. What do you propose? Morrison asked. The war entered its second year with a battle that no one expected. Admiral Krelak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his tactical display with growing disbelief. The humans had done something impossible. They had brought the fight to space. How many ships do they have now? Krelak asked his tactical officer. Intelligence estimates 50 combat vessels, sir, Commander Zareth replied. All of them built using our own technology that they somehow learned to use. Krelak's three eyes focused on the display. The human ships looked nothing like proper warships. They were crude, ugly things made from pieces of their primitive spacecraft welded around stolen alien technology. But they were fast, unpredictable, and getting more dangerous every day. Sir, the communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They want to talk. The face that appeared on the main screen belonged to Captain Morrison. He looked older than he had a year ago, scarred by his ear. Months of fighting, but his eyes were as determined as ever. Admiral Krelak, Morrison said, I have a proposition for you. You are hardly in a position to make demands, Krelak replied. My fleet still outnumbers yours 5-1. Morrison smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Your fleet is scattered across a dozen star systems, chasing ships that hit and run before you can respond. My fleet is concentrated, mobile, and getting stronger every day. But that is not why I'm calling. Then speak. Commander Vextari has told us about the Devourers. We know they are destroying your main fleet at the edge of the galaxy. We know you are losing that war. And we know that conquering Earth was never about resources. It was about survival. Krelak felt a cold sensation in his chest. The humans were not supposed to know about the Devourers. That information was classified at the highest levels. What do you want? Krelak asked. To help, Morrison replied. We want to join the fight against the Devourers. The Admiral's tactical officer made a sound that was the alien equivalent of laughter. You want to help us fight an enemy that has destroyed 1,000 worlds? Cannot even defend your own planet? Morrison's smile grew wider. We have been defending our planet just fine. In fact, we have been doing more than defending it. Major Banks, show them the recordings. The screen split to show video footage from battles around Earth. But these were not the desperate defensive actions that Krelak remembered from the early days of the invasion. These showed human forces attacking alien positions with weapons and tactics that no primitive species should possess. In one video, human soldiers moved through a ruined city using alien energy shields and weapons. They coordinated their attacks with a precision that rivaled coalition forces. When alien reinforcements arrived, the humans did not retreat. They stood and fought. Using terrain and tactics that turned the aliens' superior numbers against them, another video showed. Human aircraft that had been modified with alien technology. They moved faster than anything humans had built before, striking alien positions and disappearing before defensive fire could hit them. This is impossible, Commander Zareth whispered. They learned to use our technology in less than 2 years. It took our people centuries to develop these systems. Morrison heard the comment through the communication link. That is the difference between us, Commander. We do not spend centuries perfecting things. We make them work, then we make them better while we use them. The transmission changed to show a view of space near Earth. Human ships were everywhere, patrolling the areas between planets, escorting supply convoys, and hunting alien vessels that tried to attack Earth's colonies on the Moon and Mars. You see, Morrison continued, we have not been trying to reconquer Earth. We have been learning how to fight in space. And now we are ready to take this war to where it really matters. Krelak stared at the display. The humans had been preparing for something much bigger than defending their home world. They had been preparing to become a spacefaring military power. What are you proposing? Krelak asked. An alliance, Morrison said. You stop trying to conquer us, and we help you fight the Devourers. Together, we might actually win. Before Krelak could respond, alarms began sounding throughout his ship. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "massive energy signatures detected at the edge of the system. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." The tactical display changed to show new contacts appearing near the outer planets. Krelak felt. His blood turned cold as he recognized the sensor signatures. Dark angular ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Ships that had haunted the nightmares of every coalition citizen for generations. "Devourers," Krelak whispered. "Impossible," Commander Zareth said. "They are fighting our main fleet light years from here. How did they get past our defenses?" The answer came from Commander Vextari, whose face appeared on a secondary screen. He was broadcasting from his monitoring station at the edge of Coalition space. "Admiral, the main fleet has fallen. The Devourers broke through 3 days ago. They are moving toward the core worlds, consuming everything in their path." Krelak felt the weight of his failures crushing down on him. He had spent a year trying to conquer one primitive planet while his entire civilization was being destroyed. "How many ships do they have?" "Thousands," Vextari replied. "And they are learning from every battle. Every ship they destroy makes them stronger." Morrison's voice cut through the despair. "Admiral, you have a choice to make. You can face them alone and lose, or you can accept our help and maybe survive." "What could you possibly do against them?" Krelak asked. "Your entire fleet has fewer than 100 ships." "We can do what your people have never learned to do," Morrison replied. "We can adapt faster than they can. We can fight in ways they do not expect. And we can die fighting if that is what it takes." The Devourer fleet was moving toward Earth now, their dark ships cutting through space like knives through paper. Krelak counted at least 50 vessels, each one larger than his flagship. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "they are broadcasting on all frequencies. Same message they always send." The voice that filled the bridge was not organic. It was cold, mechanical, and absolutely certain. "Biological entities, you will be absorbed. Your technology will be integrated. Your resistance is irrelevant." Morrison's response came immediately. "Oh, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. Go to hell." Oh, the battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Devourers attacked with their usual tactics, overwhelming firepower combined with perfect coordination. They expected their enemies to fight defensively, try to protect their worlds and populations. But the humans did something different. Instead of protecting Earth, they abandoned it. Every human ship launched into space, leaving the planet apparently defenseless. The Devourers took the bait, sending half their fleet to claim the prize of an entire world. They found Earth protected by a network of automated defense satellites that had been built using Devourer technology recovered from previous battles. The satellites were crude compared to true Devourer systems, but there were thousands of them. And they fought with a coordination that confused the machine intelligence. While the Devourers were distracted by the satellite network, the human fleet attacked from behind. Their ships moved in patterns that no military computer could predict, striking at weak points that should not have existed. Major Danny Scott, now commanding his own ship, led a squadron of modified fighters in a direct assault on a Devourer command vessel. His ships were small, fast, and expendable. The Devourer's weapons were designed to destroy large warships, not swarms of tiny fighters that moved like angry insects. "Target their communications array," Danny ordered as his squadron dove toward the massive enemy ship. "Make them fight blind." The attack succeeded, but at a terrible cost. Half of Danny's squadron was destroyed by defensive fire. The survivors limped back to the main fleet, their ships damaged, but their mission accomplished. Admiral Krelak watched the battle with growing amazement. The humans were not winning, but they were not losing either. They traded ships for time, lives for strategic advantage, and they did it without hesitation. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," Commander Zareth observed. "No," Krelak corrected him, "they fight like they have everything to lose. That is why they are so dangerous." Dr. Nina Clark, working from a laboratory ship hidden behind Earth's moon, made the breakthrough that changed everything. She had been studying Devourer technology for months, trying to understand how their ships could repair themselves and learn from each battle. Captain Morrison, Nina's voice came over the communication system. I found their weakness. The Devourers are not individual ships. They are all connected to a central intelligence. If we can disrupt that connection, they will stop working together. How do we do that? Morrison asked. We need to get close to their command ship and upload a virus into their network. But it has to be done manually from inside their ship. Morrison looked at his tactical display. The Devourer command ship was the largest vessel in their fleet, surrounded by smaller ships and protected by weapons that could destroy anything that came near it. It is a suicide mission, Morrison said. Yes, sir, Nina replied. But it might work. Morrison made his decision quickly. We'll do it. The final battle took place in the space between Earth and Mars, where the fate of two species would be decided by machines that consumed worlds and the alliance that should never have existed. Captain Morrison sat in the pilot's seat of a small fighter craft, watching the massive Devourer command ship grow larger on his screen. The ship was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons and armor that had never been defeated in 1,000 battles. But Morrison was not thinking about the impossibility of his mission. He was thinking about his daughter, who was safe in the underground shelters on Earth, and about the future she would have if he failed. Morrison, this is Admiral Krelak, came the voice over his radio. My ships are in position. We will draw their fire while you make your approach. Morrison checked his instruments one more time. The virus that Dr. Clark had created was loaded into his ship's computer, ready to upload into the Devourer network. All he had to do was get close enough to their command ship to make the connection. Thank you, Admiral, Morrison replied. For what it is worth, I am sorry about the war between our peoples. The war was my fault, Krelak said. Should have listened to Vex Daria's warnings. I should have known that humans were different. The attack began with Admiral Krelak's fleet moving toward the Devourer ships in perfect formation. The alien vessels fired their most powerful weapons, creating a light show that could be seen from Earth. But the Devourers responded exactly as expected, turning their attention to the larger threat. While the Devourers were busy destroying alien ships, Morrison's fighters slipped through their defenses. His ship was too small to register as a serious threat, and the Devourer weapons were designed to fight large warships, not single fighters. But Morrison was not alone. Major Scott led a squadron of human fighters in a desperate charge against the Devourer fleet, drawing fire away from Morrison's approach. Commander Cross, flying the rebuilt U.S. Defiance, attacked the enemy's communication arrays. Colonel Banks, now commanding a captured alien cruiser, led a ship directly into the heart of the enemy formation. Morrison, you have a clear path to the command ship. Scott's voice crackled over the radio, but it will not last long. Half my squadron is already gone. Morrison pushed his fighter to maximum speed, racing toward the command ship while explosions lit up the space around him. Devourer fighters were starting to notice his approach, but they were too late. He was already too close to their main ship for them to stop him without risking damage to their own vessel. The surface of the Devourer command ship was like a metallic landscape of weapons and sensors. Morrison flew his fighter into a maintenance bay that Dr. Clark had identified as a weak point in their defenses. The bay was designed for automated repair drones, not enemy fighters. And Morrison's ship barely fit through the opening. Inside the ship, Morrison found himself in a nightmare of corridors that pulsed with mechanical life. The walls moved and shifted as the ship's systems tried to identify and eliminate the intruder, but Morrison had studied the layout for weeks, and he knew exactly where he needed to go. The central processing core was deep inside the ship, protected by security systems. That had never failed. But those systems were designed to stop alien technology, not human determination. Morrison fought his way through corridors filled with repair drones and security robots, using weapons and tactics that the Devourer intelligence could not predict. Outside the ship, the battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Krelak's fleet was being destroyed, but they were fighting harder than they had ever fought before. They had learned something from watching humans fight. They had learned that sometimes winning meant being willing to lose everything. All ships, Krelak broadcast to his remaining vessels, concentrate fire on the command ship's engines. We must keep it from escaping. The alien ships turned their weapons on the massive Devourer vessel, knowing that they were signing their own death warrants. But they also knew that Morrison needed time to complete his mission, and time was the only thing they could give him. Commander? Vextory, watching the battle from his monitoring station, sent one final message to the fleet. To all Coalition and human vessels, it has been an honor to serve with you. Show the galaxy that organic life will not go quietly into extinction. Inside the command ship, Morrison reached the central processing core. The room was filled with machines that hummed with the collected intelligence of 1,000,000 consumed worlds. At the center stood a massive computer that controlled the entire Devourer fleet. Morrison connected his ship's computer to the alien system and began uploading Dr. Clark's virus. The process would take several minutes, and he could already hear security systems converging on his location. "Morrison to fleet," he said into his radio. "I am uploading the virus now. It will take 5 minutes to complete. Whatever happens, do not let them escape." The virus was more than just a computer program. It was a piece of human logic inserted into a machine mind that had never encountered anything like it. The virus did not try to destroy the Devourer systems. Instead, it made them question their own programming. For millions of years, the Devourers had operated on simple logic: consume organic life, integrate technology, expand the collective. But the virus introduced concepts that their programming could not process. What if organic life was worth preserving? What if diversity was stronger than uniformity? What if individual thought was more valuable than collective intelligence? The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Across the Devourer fleet, ships began to slow and stop as their computers struggled with contradictory programming. Some ships turned their weapons on each other. Others simply shut down completely. Morrison watched the upload progress on his screen. 70% complete. 80%. The security drones were almost at his location now, and he could hear them cutting through the doors he had sealed behind him. 90% complete. The doors exploded inward. Mechanical creatures poured into the room. Morrison drew his sidearm and fired at the advancing machines, knowing it was hopeless but refusing to give up. 100% complete. The effect on the command ship was immediate. The lights went out, the engines stopped, and the weapons fell silent. Throughout the Devourer fleet, the same thing was happening. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were floating dead in space. Morrison's radio crackled with voices from the Allied fleet. "The Devourers have stopped moving," Major Scott reported. "Their weapons are offline. Whatever you did, it worked." Admiral Krelok's voice joined the celebration. "Captain Morrison, you have saved both our species. How can we ever repay this debt?" But Morrison did not answer. The security drones had reached him, and his radio had gone silent. The rescue mission that followed was led by Colonel Banks and a team of human Marines who fought their way through the dead. Devour a ship to reach Morrison's location. They found him unconscious, but alive, surrounded by the wreckage of destroyed security drones. "He took out 12 of them with just a pistol," one of the Marines reported. "Toughest human I have ever seen." The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The Devourer fleet hung motionless in space, their ships intact, but their controlling intelligence disrupted. Human and alien scientists worked together to study the technology, learning secrets that would advance both civilizations by thousands of years. Admiral Krelok formally surrendered to the human government, asking for forgiveness and offering his fleet's services in rebuilding what the war had destroyed. The Coalition voted to make humanity a full member, with Earth becoming one of the most important worlds in their alliance. But the greatest change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The species that had been dismissed as primitive savages was now recognized as the force that had saved organic life from extinction. Commander Vextory was recalled from his exile and given a new assignment as the first alien ambassador to Earth. As his ship approached the blue planet, he thought about the warnings he had tried to give his people 2 years earlier. He had told them that humans were dangerous. He had warned them about human determination, human adaptability, human refusal to surrender. But even he had not understood the full truth. Humans were not just dangerous to their enemies, were dangerous to the very concept of impossibility itself. They looked at problems that had no solutions and found ways to solve them anyway. They faced odds that should have meant certain death and turned them into opportunities for victory. The galaxy had laughed at Vextari's warnings about humanity. They had dismissed humans as primitive beings who posed no real threat. They had been wrong about everything. As Vextari's ship entered Earth's atmosphere, he received a message from Captain Morrison, who had recovered from his injuries and was now commanding the new human space force. Commander Vextari Morrison said, "Welcome to Earth. We have a lot of work to do together." Vextari smiled as he looked down at the blue world below. "Yes," he said, "but first I have a question for you." "What is that?" "There are rumors of other threats in the dark spaces between galaxies. Ancient things that make the Devourers look like children. Are humans ready for that kind of challenge?" Morrison's laughter came through the radio, warm and confident. "Commander, we are humans. We are always ready for the next impossible challenge."